Don't believe in aliens, they're never going to land. Don't believe in cryptids that leave footprints in the sand. Don't believe in spirits appearing from the dead. The only demons out there are living in your head. Dream crusher, the Lord of non-belief. Be careful with no one can get ready for the dream. A dedicated skeptic, we all know what that means. He's lurking in the shadows and crushing on your dreams. Dream crusher, the Lord of non-belief. Be careful with no one can get ready for the dream. A dedicated skeptic, we all know what that means.
Boom! It's Friday! Woo! That song gets me so pumped up. I love it. And I'm excited. Oh my gosh. I was jamming. Whew. If you see the background footage, one of these days I have to actually put up some blooper reel or something like that because I was jamming. I don't even know how to play drums, but I was having fun with it anyway. Oh, hello, everyone. It's Friday night. The bar is open. We got a bunch of people. Let me see who we got here. Just go through a whole bunch. We got Robababa. I love saying that name. We got Tina JT. We got, who else? Oh, the Kenny Biddle guy is in there. What the hell is that? Debunk the Junk. I love it. Love it. Susan Edwards. Stender. Wisdom is in the house. Oh, we got Devon Zipper. That's a cool one. Lurian. Am I saying that right? Make a comment. I'll try and see if I'm saying that right. Lurian Jones. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with names, so I apologize. Let me know if I'm like sounding it out right, because I even though I'm horrible with names, I hate getting them wrong because I feel just embarrassed for me. Jade Kitten's in the house. What? Nice. Julie's in the house. Dr. Jim, Firefly, Kelly, Diane, Dawn of the Dead. We got a lot of people. Rachel. Oh my God, everyone's here. We got 40 people to start. I know why you're here. You're not here to see me. You're here to see the guest. Cat Mac's in the house. It's Friday night date night. Cat Mac. Central Mass Paranormal Society. We got Glenda Watt, Kevin Falconer. Ooh, that's cool. That's actually like that's a Star Wars name. That could totally be we got Joe Vitale is in the house. Yeah. I'm just kidding, Joe. I love you. Oh, we got so many people. Audrey, Amber, Shauna, Jody. We got so many people. It just keeps going and going and going. Foxfire, Dotson 150. What? Dawson Toller. What? Dawson, who let him in this show? I'm just kidding. All right, everyone. So I'm going to go over the rules really quick because I want to get this done because I want to get our guest on. So let's go over the rules. Rule number 1 is that you are welcome to ask questions. That's what this show is about. You guys ask me questions, or if I have a guest on like tonight, it's great because you can ask him questions and he talks more than I do, which is good. I mean, at least for tonight. He's a very quiet guy, but I think he has a loud side. I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, rule number 2 is that I don't know everything. And that also applies to the guests sometimes. We don't know everything. My hair, I really need a haircut. Yeah, I don't know everything, but if we don't know it, we might be able to look it up. We'll share the screens. We'll do whatever. We'll see if we can get an idea. Or I will write it down in my handy notebook, which is here. And I will have some homework for this week. Rule number 3, we follow the Patrick Swayze rule, and that's be nice. Don't be a dick. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Don't be a dick. You can be in the chat room. You guys can go back and forth. You can discuss, debate. You can disagree. That's cool. As long as you're polite and professional about it. That's all. If it comes down to name calling, Donna is not in the house tonight. She is on vacation. She is on a beach somewhere, or at least was today. And Tim Vickers is in the house acting as producer. So he will vicar your ass out of this show if you get out of line. So you don't want that to happen. Rule number 4 is that if you have a question, put a capital Q in front of it, because that helps Tim, who's in the background watching the chat, to pick out all of those and then save them for the second hour. And then rule number 5 is my favorite one. Drink up. We got the super cup today. With some specialty. I love it. All right. With that, I am going to put on my special guest thing here, and I will bring on our guest. Here we go. Kev Kerr. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, Kenny? You all right?
I'm doing pretty good. I get so excited every time I do this show. I mean, I could be like down in the dumps, exhausted, whatever, and as soon as I come over here and sit down, I'm like, oh, we're like less than 10 minutes ago. I'm like, all right, cool. And then as soon as I start playing the music, I get so pumped up, and especially when I have someone to talk to. It
always helps.
I did see you had a drink there. What are you drinking?
I'm on Kraken lemonade with a bit of lime.
Ooh, I like that. That's good. I got lemonade, diet tea, and Kraken in here. So
nice.
Yes, I do.
We're the same person.
you just have a better accent. That's all. And probably better looking and all that stuff. So, I mean, you definitely got the better genes.
I've got it all going for me.
There you go. So tell us about who you are. Like, we met. I don't recall the first time that we met, but it was probably over a decade ago.
Yeah, we're talking probably 13, 14 years, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it was a while ago, and I kept seeing your name pop up in certain circles, and it was like, oh, I like this guy. You know, he's got some reasoning behind what he's saying. He's got some logic, and you approach things curious, but not like jumping, head first to the shallow end of the pool, to see what's going on. So I really like that.
Same for me to you. That is pretty much identical.
Oh, we are the same person. We're like connected. Maybe we have a
psychic ability.
See, there you go. Oh my God. Oh, this is going to be a fun show.
Oh yes.
So, it's tradition here at the Skeptical Help Bar that every time I have a guest on, and it's their first time, my first question, because I am a nerd, I'm a comic book nerd and a geek and all that. So, what is your origin story? So, how did you get involved in all of this? So, go ahead, floor is yours.
So, to start, when I was very young, like a lot of people in the paranormal, they sort of had an experience. I always found it really interesting. I grew up in old pubs, and a lot of ghost stories and things from my younger ages. So I'd read predominantly books about ghosts, ghost stories and the Harry Price type investigations and things, and be really intrigued by it all. At the same time as having sort of paranormal experiences as I went through my teens as well. And I was a believer for a long time. And I used to convert people to be believers because to me there was no argument.
Okay.
But until I began to study and then realized there's a whole load of arguments for it. And so as I sort of went on and I was getting more into psychology, science, understanding like the basics of engineering and all kinds of things, you suddenly go, oh, that explains it. And then I began to realize that science doesn't label something paranormal because it's considered normal. So where's the normal answer? So I started digging further. Then I tend to go more towards the psychological aspects, how people behave, how people see things, how they might experience things. And then I decided there wasn't much coming out of the actual paranormal field. The only thing that's kind of happening was people began to talk to little machines and bleeps and flashes, and it didn't make any sense compared to what I'd read when I was younger, where there was a whole lot of documentation and a whole lot of books being written about experience and things that they were finding that should be mistrusted. So I went into the field. I decided, right, I'll be a paranormal investigator. I'll go out and find out what's going on. And I was shocked and saddened, really. I think I was so excited for it, and then all of a sudden there was this, what are you people doing, kind of mode. So I decided, it was about a year after being with a team and going to different locations and stuff, and I thought it's kind of not good enough. And I started Parationalize, which was a blog about finding out those aspects. How does this piece of equipment work? Why this methodology fails, what we need to do as investigators to find some level of credible data from what we're doing, instead of just the thing that I bought for $20 was flashy and it flashes every now and again, so it's a ghost. So trying to put that logic forward, and I was lucky to have that kind of background knowledge before I actually started in the field, which gave me a massive advantage. And then I started with the likes of ASAP, so the Association of Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, and the SPR, the Society of Psychical Research, and then sort of became a residential investigator through them. So actually go into people's houses, and they believed that they were experiencing phenomena, then finding a reason why that was happening, and actually finding genuinely that I helped people. So it became about helping people who were either experiencing something they didn't understand, which was actually quite normal, and this is the way to get help, or they were experiencing something that wasn't really there. So there was medical issues, sort of mental health issues that were going on at the time, and signposting those towards professional help, instead of kind of being, oh, there's a spirit in this house. By the way, I'm only going to come here for one night. I'm going to put something that flashes in front of you, and then I'm just going to leave. You're all good now. It's like, so
right.
So I've done that quite heavily for a while, especially while I was doing Parationalize. And then I became part of a group called Team Impact after realizing that doing those kind of investigations on my own was dangerous, really dangerous. After getting locked into a house with a person who was schizophrenic, and realizing that I was actually in a very unsafe position. So I joined a team. One of them had trained at the same time as me in regards to the investigation, so that was cool. And then we went on to, from that, create the UK Paranormal Society. So recently only released sort of a year ago, but I had to give that up after a year or two of building with a charity commission and things, and making this. The plan was to make a society that was able to help all these vulnerable individuals, help kind of explain the paranormal without, in a non-judgmental way, but like, this is the way to do it, or this is the science behind it. And then now that's been released, but it's quite different now because of the charity commission. You can't actually help members of the public. And then now I'm just Kev Kerr Paranormal. So I mostly on social media. I go on investigations to different haunted locations, and I just try and make the paranormal a bit better for everyone, really.
I think that's really good, and I think that's what drew me to you. Like, not in a romantic way, so don't get all mushy, but but I mean, I'm like,
oh, Kenny.
I know. As soon as the words came out, I was like, oh, I should not have said it that way. One of the reasons I can't say it right now.
Go on, you can do it.
Enjoyed like your content or your comments, or agreed with your comments, was because you were thinking through it. You were employing critical thinking, which is really rare in this community. I mean, it's very rare to see someone apply critical thinking to the investigations or the stories or the gadgets. And I gotta say, like, every time you said about like a gadget blinking, then it must be a ghost. All I could think of was Monty Python's The Search for the Holy Grail, going, if it blinks, it's a ghost. Oh my gosh, that has to be a T-shirt now. But you're right. With that, I mean, there's so many. I just jotted down a whole bunch of notes. There's so many questions I want to get into with you, but like, we'll just jump in with the equipment. Like, I find that to be a very a common thread throughout these groups, that they get these gadgets, and if it blinks, if it makes a noise, then that equals ghost. Like, what have you found? What do you think about this?
So I originally, when I first went out into the field, I spent about £5,000 on all kinds of different bits of kit. So obviously the night vision cameras, I had multiple recorders, full spectrum cameras, I had tri-field meters, I had every temperature thing you could possibly think of. I basically just kitted myself out completely and then worked my way back from there. And now I've kind of got to a point where I have a camera that's capable of night vision, a voice recorder, and a notepad and pen. So after all of that, that's what I found as is a practical requirement. The rest is completely experimental. So if I need to experiment with something, I will go and either buy it or borrow it or whatever I need to do. But as I've found with pretty much all equipment, is it doesn't do anything, and if it does, we are really bad at proving that it does. So so my attempt is to kind of, you're never going to stop the community using it because it helps boredom so much. It's entertaining, you know. So if you are going to use, just say, I don't know, you're going to use an EMF meter, right? Make sure you understand it. Preferably have it calibrated, so you know that the data you're getting is good. You know, that's always a good start.
I mean, that is something. I can't tell you the number of times I've asked ghost hunters or anyone that's involved with it, when they whip out their K2 meter and it's like, we're ready to go. I'm like, when's the last time that was calibrated? And they're like, what do you mean? I mean, it's a precise measuring tool. Well, I mean, not a K2. It's not precise.
Okay, I can say, I'll go with another EMF.
I'll go with something, yeah, like a Lutron EMF meter that's more precise. Like, when's the last time you had that checked and made sure that it was calibrated to 50, 60 hertz? Because that's what it's calibrated to. And, you know, you put it in your bag and you're bouncing it around in your car, or you're throwing it around and you drop it a few times. Like, there might be an issue.
Work.
And it's amazing, the response. Not one person has understood that you need to do that.
Yep.
It boggles my mind. So again, I'm sorry, continue.
But this is the exact issue. I kind of realized early on with Paranormal that, so there's a lot of people who are really passionate about investigating the paranormal. They've come in from sort of seeing TV shows and seeing how they do it, and they're sat there, like, say, with the K2 or whatever, and they're using the K2 to try and create communication, not even using the equipment what it's meant for, which is, you know, let's take a look at the EMF in the area. Let's check for wiring. Let's have a look at what's in this room or in this environment. It's when it flashes this communication. So they kind of come in with that mindset and they never change it. And I think half the problem is because there's a big thing against skeptics where it's like, oh, boo, the skeptic. And it's like, you know, actually we're kind of here to help. Yeah, okay, if you're going to try and sell yourself wrong in any way, then we're going to say about it, and you're not going to like that, and there's going to be backwards and forwards, and that's fine. But when you have that situation where you're doing something that you think is right, but it's very well known that it's not, then you kind of have to be able to adjust and amend. So Paranormal became a lot about going to these investigators and saying, I see what you're trying to do, but if you do this, then you're going to get something from it. but if you keep doing the way you're doing, you're not gaining anything. There's nothing for the field,
Right.
you know. So a lot of what I do even now is about almost teaching those steps and trying to be as approachable as I can nowadays. During Power Rationalized days, I did not give a fuck about it. It was, ripping through everything, just, and I think it was more out of shame of what the paranormal field was. It was like, I wanted it to be this amazing thing. And then I came into it and was like, this is a joke. And was quite angry about it, really.
That's just like, I see more and more how we relate to each other, because the exact same story. I was a believer. I was getting people to try to believe because I thought the same way. Like, there was no question. Like, I know better, and all these skeptics and scientists just don't want to acknowledge that it exists. And I know better than the scientists, and I had no idea how wrong I was. But yeah, look at it. Trying to be approachable. I mean, that's one of my number one rules, because I have a lot of number one rules. You'll see. The more I talk, the more I was like, the number one rule is, but you want to be approachable. And I mean, rule number 3 is be nice. It's the Patrick Swayze rule: be nice until it's time to not be nice. And that's my philosophy, because I think to be nice is more accepting to other people. If you actually are nice and you find common ground and then work from that, it goes well. They'll come back. You can come back to them. You can hang out. You can talk. You can they'll invite you on investigations. You get that relationship. You build that relationship. But if you come in guns blazing, they don't want to talk to you, and you get that reputation. So it's really nice. And I think this is all coming back to me now, like when we first started talking and getting along and commenting on the same things. Like, we had this similar interest and similar experiences. So I'm so happy we're hanging out.
Me too.
So nice. I mean, that's you also touched on something about like TV shows, and I think that's sadly, I think our society or how our communities are, especially the paranormal community, they get their quote unquote education from TV and YouTube, and now TikTok.
TikTok.
TikTok. I see you on there. I do see you on there.
The only reason I'm on there is because it was the worst place I could find for the paranormal. I thought, if ever I needed anywhere within the field, it's on TikTok.
I agreed, because it's just a cesspool of anyone. I mean, I thought YouTube was pretty bad, because I mean, not overall. Overall, I love YouTube. I use it all the time to like learn how to do things, or if I'm stuck in a video game, it's like, all right, there's a walkthrough. All right, I'm good. But when it came to like paranormal shows, and people took their concept of a show to YouTube, it was just, do whatever you want. And I didn't think you could get worse than that, but obviously you can, because TikTok came along. And
exactly.
Oh my goodness. So what do you think? Where do you think we went wrong? Where do you think people went wrong when they are the bulk of their education with this? And I know you call it a field, and a lot of people call it a field. I call it more of a hobby, because I don't think the people that are doing it are serious about what they're doing.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's more of a weekend entertainment or weekend getaway, something like that. It's weekend warriors that are doing it. So when I see them getting the bulk of their education, and again in air quotes, from TV and YouTube and TikTok, I weep for I weep for everyone. I mean, where do you think we went wrong?
I think it was the likes of Ghost Hunters International and Most Haunted and those kind of things, where people have always had an interest in ghosts and the paranormal and that kind of thing, and people have these experiences. It's the same as I always say, these things happen to people. The reason why they do or what's happening, we struggle for the answer, but it happens to people. And I think when all of a sudden that kind of thing was on the telly, people were like, I can do that. Whereas before those TV shows was, a handful of investigators, especially around the UK, who would go to these different places, like when we say we had the Enfield haunting,
The Enfield
Morris
Haunted,
Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair. you know, the SPR has been there for well over 100 years, and it's, you know, we go and study these things as they go, and it's nice and quiet in the background, and that's it. But then all of a sudden, when it's thrust into the media, that first sort of series of Most Haunted was quite bland but exciting because they were in the dark and they're looking for ghosts, and that it could run off of that for a series, and then suddenly it's like we need more, so we need stuff to actually happen. Whereas, you know, you've been on investigations like that yourself, where you sit and you do nothing and nothing ever happens, and you're
Right.
like, okay. So they filled the gap, and they found stuff that would go off randomly. You know, okay, to me, if you sat it down on a desk in a non-haunted location, it will randomly go off every now and again. You know, you've got terrestrial aerials, you've got all kinds of things wired in walls, all these different things that make it go off. So people have seen it on the TV shows, and it goes off, forgetting that the editing will line that up for them so that it looks like it's giving a correct answer. Or if it does give seemingly correct answers, why is that happening? No one's there to actually explain it. And no one wanted it explained to begin with. I think we're seeing a bit of a change recently where people are wanting to see the skeptical aspect and the answers. But I think for that 15, 20 years, it was just give me ghosts, give me ghosts, give me ghosts. I want to see proof of ghosts, proof of ghosts, proof of ghosts. And these TV shows would give that all day. And
Right.
now we find, as we find with a lot of successful YouTubers, they can give that all the time. Because
Yeah.
there are, as you know, well, I've proven with your videos and everything else, it's a very easy thing to do, just to fake
Yeah.
these things continuously. And now you can
Yes.
make money from doing it. So it's like you can fake things and make money, and people will pay you £20 a month to do it.
Right. Right. I agree that there's. I did see a shift over the last few years. Like probably about 5 years ago, I think I started seeing it, and it's more now where people are looking for that skeptical angle, because I almost want to say that they are tired of it because they see the same shit over and over and over again. And I think you mentioned it. I think you wrote it in your bio. There's no progress. There is no progression at all. I mean, it's we are stuck. Well, not we, but the community is stuck in this loop, and they just keep going around and around, chasing their own tail, and never progress.
Yeah.
And we really have to think, like, why? And I think you're right. You were on it, where people started saying, maybe we are just doing this wrong. Maybe we should listen to somebody. And when you have people out there like you that approach it in a nice way, and you're just trying to help, and you're very sincere, you appear very genuine, and I'm just saying that, but I do know you. Like, we have talked over the years, so I do know you, and you're very genuine and out there. And I guess it comes back to like what you said earlier about if people are using equipment and they're doing it wrong, or they don't realize they're doing it wrong, they still should be open to a discussion about it, because maybe they are doing it wrong. And I mean, there's been plenty of times I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I got a piece of equipment. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't know what this does, you know. And if somebody wants to school me on it, by all means, please tell me what it does, you know, or how to work it. So, but I think you're right. There's a shift where people are looking more for skepticism and more answers or explanations, or trying to understand a little bit more so they can progress a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a good thing though. Like I find even some YouTubers as well. So I say recently, I was about, I want to say it's almost a year ago. I worked with the Ouija brothers one night at Hill House and Ross and Y near us, and it was. I was really shocked when I was first told they were coming. I kind of thought, oh, you know, okay, you know, this is going to be interesting. These guys are going to turn up and, you know, bleepy flashy, and that's it. And I was really surprised. So we stayed overnight. We had breakfast in the morning and everything. They arrived. They quickly did some sort of outside shots to make the scene, you know, and that's like fine, happy days. And then they began investigating. I was kind of going to leave them to it, and then I just sort of went with them because they didn't have that mindset. Like they literally were not looking for anything to happen.
Okay.
They had that like correct mindset with it that they were gonna, gonna go and do what they do, and if something happens, great. If it doesn't, then it's a null and void video.
Right.
And I was really surprised at their approach. And the next morning, when I sat down and actually like discussed it with them, they were talking about these YouTube channels that are like faking everything and everything else. And they said, look, like we go and we film this stuff on the just in case, and like nothing was sensationalized. And then when they released that video, the whole video, nothing happened. And they were happy. They were happy just to put it out there. That's what we did. So
Right.
they're happy to take the negatives and say, make the negative and positive, and say we haven't found anything, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And it completely threw me, because I really did expect them to come in and lob the odd stone in the corner and that kind of stuff. And they didn't. They were honest throughout. They were honest with me in the morning, and luckily, because I had that little break where I sort of had about 3 years off to become a dad and do all that kind of stuff, my name got a bit forgotten about, and it was the best thing that ever happened because people talk openly to me now.
Right.
Whereas before they were like, "Fuck, he's gonna rip me and rip me out."
Oh my god, I get that a lot. Oh, I try anytime I sign up for an event, if I can get someone to sign up for me, I do that because it's too many times. And I feel weird saying this because it almost feels like bragging. I'm not bragging. I'm saying that when I've signed up for places, I immediately get an email or a phone call or a message saying, "Why are you signing up for my event? Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's an open event. I'm signing up.
What's the problem?
Why are you? Yeah, why are you coming here?" I just want to see. I like last weekend. I went to the Conjuring House. I've never been there. Well, I've driven along the road that's right outside of it, so I mean I could see it, but I wasn't allowed in. But this time, a friend of mine got a ticket for a day tour, and I was able to tour the house and get inside, and it was great. I didn't announce it. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, where I was staying, anything. It's just so I could go in and experience the place myself and walk around. I had some time where they let you go and get pictures, and I'm great. I'll run around and check some of these claims that I've heard about in other videos. And it was great. It was good. I didn't have anyone constantly watching me. I didn't have anyone changing their delivery because like they could be like this talking to everyone, and they're like, "Well, people said." And they look at you and they're like, "Oh, well, some people allegedly think." And I do not like this. I want you to be honest with me. So that's great. I've heard about the Ouija brothers through Beardo. Beardo Get Scared. I heard about them. I haven't talked to them like personally or like directly yet. But they sound like good guys. I've watched a couple of their videos, and like
it's just
they don't exploit it. They don't. Yeah, it is what it is. That's exactly it. Really, really nice. It's really cool. So let's see what else you got. Oh, I wanted to say too. Like I felt the same kind of surprise and relief. A month or two ago, I went to the Bel Air house in Ohio, and I met up with another guy, Joe Vitale, and I was really impressed with how he handled a lot of the things going on. Because he has a group called Entity 7 Paranormal, and I kind of thought like, all right, well maybe he's more like on the ghost hunting side. And when we showed up, like he brought Faraday bags to put the radios in. He was offering explanations that had logic and reason behind them. I was like, son of a bitch, this is good. Like I can sit back and be like, I don't have to do shit. Like this guy is doing everything. Like. Hey, this is the first time he's the bad guy, and I'm not. I'm gonna walk away nice.
But I'll tell you what, this is the whole point of what I do. Like now is to try and people aren't going to stop using these things. They're not going to. They love it and they enjoy it too much. I try to get them to use them as properly as possible, and that's the only way. Like it's sort of teaching that kind of middle school science to say. Just I know you want to use it, but just put these controls in place so that if something does happen, you've got some level of information. Say that was really weird. That shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And then you can take it further and take it further and take it further. But don't just rely purely on the box or whatever it is you're going to do. Try and create an experiment. And sometimes when you see that and you see people do it, you just think, oh, thank for that. Like, I hope you don't mind me swearing. It's like,
No, so you're allowed. This is a bar. This is a pub. You can swear all you want. I mean, it depends.
You'll regret
When I
that.
get riled up, I start dropping like F-bombs. So you're cool. I like how you bring up controls, because that's something I stress all the time. Like, you have to have controls. You can't just do an experiment and not have any controls on what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, why? Tell me. Instead of me saying it, like, why do you need controls?
So put it this way: if you, and this way I see it anyway, if you put complete controls in place, so you're trying to minimize what might not be happening or might be happening. So you've already covered. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Woodchester Mansion, which is a big Gothic mansion that we have here, it's quite renowned as haunted. And one of my teams that I was with, we used to look after the paranormal nights that were there.
Okay.
So we used to get quite good access. So one of the big things that happen there is stone throwing. So people would experience it. I experienced it 3 times myself when I was on my own in the building, and I was, what the hell? That's step one is a stone's been thrown. It's me, but that was only me there, so it was just me saying the stone's been thrown. That's it. There was no controls in place because I was just walking through the middle of a walkway.
Okay.
So secondly to that, I said, right, I need an experiment to build that together. So there's one area where there's a big table in the middle, and it's like perfect, and I want sort of 6 investigators or whatever we're going to do. And the first step we're going to do is there's 6 of us here. We know that. We've got the doors locked. There's one control. The doors are locked. The area is empty. We know that for a fact. Okay, tick. Control number 1. Second control is I want everyone to take a step back from the table, and so they're about a foot away, and put their hands down on the table. So they're leaning forward and they're relying on their hands for their weight. Okay, that's the second control. Now I know that each of those 6 people are in one place at the same time. We could do whatever we want to create the stone throwing. So they could call out, they could tap on the table, whatever they needed to do, but they had to remain in that position. Okay, good. Did we experience stone throwing? Yes. Okay, so further controls. A gazebo type, I don't know what you'd call it. Is it a gazebo in America? Is that, yeah. Like a gazebo frame with netting around it.
Okay.
There's a further control then. Right. Is it someone who's in here, or is it someone who's outside of the netting? Okay. Right. We have our further control. So we step further and further and further away until we stop. And that tells us where our answer is then. All of a sudden there's no stones being thrown. What happened with this control to that control to stop that from happening?
Right.
So we need to control every experimentation, every experiment that we do, because we need to know basically what it is that's happened. I don't know if that makes any sense what I was saying out loud. But
I know what you're saying. So you're trying to weed out the possible causes that are man-made or accidental. So you put controls on it to say, all right, we know that, like, for your example, that's a great example. We know that there are a certain amount of people here. So let's make sure we know exactly everyone present has to be in this room. That's your control, because you're making sure there's no one else around. I don't know if there's a possibility that somebody else could get in the room. I don't know that, but you're trying to get everyone in one room. The second control I actually love, where you had everyone push back and then now they're leaning forward and they have to have their hands on the table. That's telling us, that's controlling for anyone possibly throwing a stone. That because their hands are busy, they're all in plain sight to everyone. They're visible. Yeah. That's your control. And that's saying, hey, we know where all their hands all are. We can see it all. And if we have a camera, it's on camera. We have that. So you're tightening every time you have like a set of controls, you do an experiment. If something does happen, then you will reevaluate and you look at what might have gotten through your first two controls, and then you implement another one and you do it again until you're left with, we don't know. We have nothing else that we can think of that we can control for. We don't know yet.
Yep.
And then that leaves it up for I don't know, which is a perfectly acceptable answer to everyone.
But that's the beginning.
Yes.
We
That is
don't know.
beginning.
Okay. Yeah, that's not. It's paranormal. You know, that is the. Okay, we found something that's harder to explain, and that's where you need to. That's where you learn to extend your knowledge or use someone else's knowledge. As I've reached out to you a few times in situations and said, "What do you think?" And then you'll go, "This isn't." Good point. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Or I go and talk to, I don't know, Chris French from Goldsmiths University and say, "This situation." You pull more knowledge in to find out, and then build more controls. You know, until you get an answer. Unfortunately, when you do find an answer, it tends to be on deaf ears and people didn't want it. But yeah,
Well, I mean, this is good because that's something that not a lot of people do. And I know, like I said earlier about like not many ghost hunters take this seriously. And then somebody did comment, I forget who it was, but somebody said that some of us do take it seriously. And I get that. And I didn't want to like be insulting to everyone, but I think the majority of the community does it as a hobby. There are a few people that do take it seriously. And this is a good seriousness because as you said, like if you don't know where to go from a certain point, like you test it, you're at a roadblock. Now you reach out to other people that have much more knowledge and expertise and experience than you do. And I do the same thing. I'm constantly reaching out to other people and saying, hey, you know, you have a background in this. What can you tell me? Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I not seeing that you might see? And
it's the same as what was it, rule number 2 on your for this.
Yeah, I don't know everything.
You don't know everything. Like you don't, and people sometimes, especially get a bit of notoriety as a skeptic, they kind of expect you to know everything,
right?
And they really surprise me to around and go, I'm not sure, and they go, oh, I've got you. Then it's like, wait, no, I just need to go and find out some more information, and then we'll see again.
I had a phone call to the office yesterday, and I didn't answer it because I was busy doing something. But they left a message saying, "Hey, you know, basically their idea was that portals exist, and that spirits are not spirits; they are from other dimensions, and they're crossing through these portals to getting here. So why can't physics explain this and open portals?" And they want me to give an answer, and I'm like, I'm not a physicist. I can't do that. And maybe next time don't watch Doctor Strange before you ask me a question. But yeah, I mean, I constantly have to say that, and I'm sure you get it. It's let me back up a little bit here. I think it's the mentality, and I'm going to say a broad kind of statement here, and it's not everyone, but a lot of people in this community, once they call themselves a ghost hunter or paranormal investigator, they instantly become an expert in every field known to man. They have a quote unquote informed opinion on everything. That doesn't work on this side. I'm a skeptical. I'm a professional skeptic. This is what I do for a living, but I don't know everything. And if you ask me a question, I'm going to be honest and say, you know, I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
And it's surprising to so many people. Like, what do you mean? You know, you're the investigator. You have a job. You do this for a living, and you don't know the answer to my question? Yeah, asshole. I do not know the answer to your question.
It's worse when they turn around and they're like, so thus forth, I'm right. And it's like, no. Like,
right.
Just because science can't answer something, it doesn't give us the right just to fill in the gaps and say, right, that's what it is. It's because even science itself, as we know we're as right as we are. And then as more evidence comes in and more facts change and we learn as we go, it changes.
Right.
And the same as people say, well, why can you trust science? Because science used to say, because science is doing what science does. It's evolving and changing with new information.
Right.
And just because I don't know, Tony from down the road decided that portals exist, doesn't mean portals exist. You know?
Right.
It's trying to get that into the community, that it's like, just because science can't explain what a ghost is or what it's made of or anything else like that, doesn't mean that science doesn't know what it's doing. It just means that we're maybe not at that point. We have multiple explanations for what ghosts are in regards to psychology, in regards to what it might be in regards to physics. But what it might be, we can't prove that, so thus forth it doesn't become fact. So we can't fill in the gaps. We can't we can't just
Yeah.
say, well, it's that then, isn't it? I know that because the spirits told me through
Right.
some communication I was having. Yeah, oh, okay, but you live with that, and that's fine. That's not an issue. But you can't lay that on top and say that that's what it is, 100%.
Right. And I mean, science is always trying to. The science communicators that I speak with, they are always with the philosophy and the tagline, like we're constantly correcting ourselves. You know, we're
Mhm.
learning more. We are
Mhm.
self-correcting a tool. That's what we are.
Mhm.
That's what science is, and it can be wrong about things. But that's why we have things like peer review and replication, so that other groups can look at it and say, "Hey, wait, I found a problem with this." You know,
Mhm.
and when it comes to paranormal claims, it's kind of like a back and forth, because it doesn't always need a complicated explanation. It
Mhm.
doesn't need like science and physics and biology and all this to come together and say, no, you're wrong because of this. It could be as simple as you got a fucking bug on your lens. You
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
like that's it. That's what your picture is. That's what your video is. It's a bug on your lens.
Mhm.
It's not applying like PhDs to come up with an explanation. It's a very simple thing from experience that we can do.
And
So
it surprises me how many people wouldn't take that as an answer.
yes,
Even when it's very obvious, you can almost see the lines and the wings of a bug
yeah.
on it. You know,
So
it's
many
like it's
so many
there. You
times
know?
they're like, oh look, there's this orb that orbs. But this is orb that goes across the screen, and when you watch the video, it's really small, and you can see that it's not circular, it's
Mhm.
oval, and because you can see it go up and then turn, and then go this way, and then turn and
Mhm.
go this way. I'm like, yeah, you can almost see the legs. I mean, it's a bug. It's a bug on the lens.
But then
So,
it's a fairy. If it's too obvious, then
oh,
it's a fairy. So
it's a
we've got.
wow. Wow, like all right. Yeah. Then that's when I walk away.
Yeah, so
That's
you just
when I'm
say,
like,
I'm
you
not even
know
gonna
what?
even close to win this here. Don't entertain it.
Yeah, like
That's-
you just put up a brick wall, man. I can't. I'm not gonna fight with that. Okay, okay. I'm gonna go talk to nobody over there with a drink. Oh, you mentioned earlier. Once in a while, maybe you were in an unsafe situation. Um,
Mm.
that you might find yourself in an unsafe situation. Can you give us an example? Like, what do you mean by that? And like a
So,
personal experience.
so I've got to be obviously careful because a lot of what I do is under confidentiality agreements, and this
Right.
is what would this be now? 9, 10 years ago. So I was approached by someone that was claiming they were getting sexually assaulted by a demon on a nightly basis, which was really surprisingly common when it comes to the
Really?
residential investigation. Yeah, really common.
Okay.
Um, so me being quite a young investigator, quite cocky, bit like I've done multiple residential investigations. I arrived, I sat down with the lady, we discussed what was happening. And she said every night this demon appears. It does all kinds of things to her. She hates it. She screams for help. She can't get any help. And I thought sleep paralysis, just because I was being cocky instead of stopping and analyzing. So usually my number one rule was you do the initial interview, you take all that information, and then you look at the multiple different answers that it could be. You find the most logical explanation. You kind of go back and explain that through. I didn't. That was the first
Okay.
interview, and it was the first time that I'd went, "Oh yeah, well to me it just sounds like sleep paralysis." You know, you're suffering. So there's a thing called sleep paralysis that you're suffering from, and you're falling asleep, and you're waking up, and you're almost projecting your dreams whilst you can't move. Da, 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 da. She's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. You know, and that isn't the case. That isn't the case. And she got up quite casually. And sort of in the UK, we have terraced houses, so you can almost see the front and back door. So it's like the same
Okay.
thing. So she walked to the front door and she locked that, and she walked to the back door and she locked that, and she sat back down. She said, "You're not leaving until you find an answer for this." And then I suddenly sharpened up and was like, "Whoa! One, you shouldn't have given this answer. Two, you now could be dealing with someone with some kind of mental issue, whether it's
Right.
schizophrenia or anything else, and you are going to become part of that delusion. And if you're not careful, because you've gone against it, and at the same time, um, that could mean that she could accuse you of rape, and
Yes.
you have no witnesses, you have no one else here to corroborate.
Yeah.
Like, you're, what do you do? You know, so it's this sudden panic. But luckily, I managed to kind of go, well, this is more of a religious issue, so I can't deal with that myself right now. But I'm going to need to go away and deal with that.
Right.
And then I'll come back, and then we can deal with it with, Archbishop, whoever's going to turn up, to perform an exorcism. And she just went from like quite aggressive to totally calm. Okay, no problem. Just unlock the door. I said, okay, thanks very much, and I got up and left
Right.
quickly. I went around the corner. I called the local crisis team. I explained who I was and what I was doing, and this is the address and the name and the contact details, and this is the situation I've been in, and that basically a welfare visit is required if they are on your books. If not, I would suggest a welfare visit because of this situation. Lo and behold, good news, and the best part about being that kind of investigator was sort of a while after that, I then had a message from her to say thank you so much, that she's diagnosed schizophrenic. She'd come away from her medication sort of accidentally, and then she kind of couldn't grasp what was happening. And then because I came in and kind of changed that direction, she was able to get back on medication and bring her life back together before it went too far. Most amazing feeling ever, but the sudden realization that you can't do this stuff on your own,
Right.
just because you can't. And I made a TikTok recently, and like a video that I put out to say, do not do this on your own, whether it's investigating in a place on your own, whether it's the safety aspects that come from that are just
Right.
ridiculous. But because I was a cocky and quite arrogant young investigator, I thought, yeah, I'll deal with anything. And it was suddenly in that situation, it was like, it didn't matter how strong I was, if I could fight off someone, if I could.
Right.
That wasn't the thing that was going to happen. This was going to be something quite serious if I wasn't careful.
Yeah. So I have 2 points I want to comment on.
Mm-hmm.
One, I agree with you. Like, the situation where you find yourself alone, when you're by yourself with only one person, and in our case right now, like, if like I walked into a house and it was only one female there, I would not go into the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just standard, because
Yep.
exactly what you said, like, you can be accused of anything, just because maybe things didn't go the way that they wanted. And I'm not trying to say like females are bad or men are bad, or I mean old men they suck. But I mean, it's just I dealing with old men sometimes. You, Dr. Jim. I know Dr. Jim's out there. Anyway, but you have to be careful. So I understand where you're coming from with that, and I think that was, yeah, I understand. Like, you were young and like, I can do anything. I'm great, but yeah, experience brings more safety with you, and like, that's one of my rules. I will not go into a house or apartment or anything like that if there's only one, especially if it's one female in there. No, I'm not going to go. Luckily, my wife will come with me. Like, I'll let her know beforehand, like, this is the situation. I need you to please come with me, just so I have a witness.
2 seconds, Kenny. I'm going to have to jump off for 1 second. I apologize.
Okay.
Hold on.
That's all right. Uh-oh. Maybe he's getting naked. I hope not. Don't do that. Do not come back on and have like no clothes. That would suck. But the second thing I'm going to say, I'm going to keep going with this while he's taking care of what he has to take care of. The fact that he left that place and went and called the crisis team, that is exactly what you're supposed to do. Holy shit. Like, that is so refreshing to hear that someone did that, because how many times, and feel free to comment and give it, different variations of this or your experience with this, but so many times that a team told me about an experience where someone had like weird things going on, and they demonstrated possible mental health issues, and instead of leaving and getting them the proper help, the team stays and keeps going with, we're finding ghosts, we're finding demons, we're finding this and that. Have you been listening?
I have, yeah.
Okay, good. And it angers me to no end, where like the group only cares about likes and subscriptions and all kinds of views and shit like that, because they will keep doing whatever they have to do for that 4 or 5 hours that they are torturing that person with their ghost hunt. But that you went out and immediately called a crisis team. Oh my God, dude. Like I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that, because that's not something that happens.
So with the the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, so you can become an investigator with them, and they offer training courses. And in one of the training courses, one of the big things is about knowing when you take on a case in a certain area, knowing what service is available in that area. So part of my pack that I'd fill out every time I got a case would be the local services, so the phone number for them, and the local crisis team, because of those situations. So anyone out there who is doing this, that is a very good way to do it, is to realize what services are available to someone who's located in that area. Over in the UK, we obviously have the NHS, so it's free, so you can call these people, get these people help, and it's not necessarily going to be, thousands of pounds bill. They're going to be directed in the right position. Recently, since COVID, our mental health services are terrible. They've really gone downhill, but luckily we have that open to us. And part of that is you almost, on a high percentage, got to expect to walk in and find those issues, those mental health issues that you're looking for. And when you do, know what to do. But these people, these groups who kind of get created, like you say, they've got their YouTube, they go, so we're at this house today and we're meeting with this person. And this person's like, yeah, okay. And they're giving you permission, and they might not be in the right mental state to give permission to say, okay. And in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time, when things might balance out slightly for them, or in 6 months, or however long it's going to take, and all of a sudden they've got this blight on their reputation or of their life,
right,
on YouTube for all to see, and they're in their worst possible state.
Right.
And I've always said, if you want to be a paranormal investigator, go and be a residential investigator, and that is what you do. And you don't make money, you don't get fame, you don't do anything else. And it's hard work. It can last years in some cases. If you want to be a paranormal investigator that does events and goes to all these locations and makes money from YouTube, go and do that. Don't do both. Don't mess around with be a real paranormal investigator, or be a money-making, fame-hungry investigator. It's totally up to you. There is obviously a lot of in-betweens there, so I'm not just saying that's 2 ways to go, but you can't be a serious trying to help people investigator and a money-spinning YouTuber kind of thing at the same time. It just doesn't mix.
Yeah, because one is more for making entertaining content to put out there for people to watch, and if you try to do that with a situation like this, it's exploiting the person that you're trying to help. You're God damn, it reminds me of the Warrens. Like
exactly.
And with that, we're gonna go on our break. We just summed it up. That's awesome.
Perfect timing.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, we are at the hour break. So we're gonna go do our pee break. It's a 4 minutes. What is it? Oh my God, I gotta look. I gotta see what it is. It's a 4 minute and 9 second break. So please go empty your bladders and stop by the fridge, fill up your cup, and come back here in 4 minutes, and we will continue with your questions. So the next hour is viewer questions, and we'll see what you guys ask, and then what Kev comes up with. So
We shall
I'll
see.
see you back here in just over 4 minutes from now.
And now for something completely different.
Welcome, my fellow skeptics. Welcome, one and all. I am the chief investigator. Oh, come along, old chap. We will have a ball. Now, if you will excuse me, it's time to open the mic. Good night. Good night. Kenny Biddle's the name, investigating's my game, and I will have at it. Quid pro quo. As the head of this committee, hunting for ghosts can be shitty, but there is nothing better that I know. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? Let's open the bar and ask some questions, alright? Maybe you might find an answer or two. I will find the truth this night and day, and if my name is not Kenny Biddle, then I assure you here I will not stay. Good day! Kenny Biddle's the name, ghost hunting's the game. I won't let anything get in my way. Too many fakers out there, too many chefs, too many toe tappers, none of it makes any sense. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? Let's open the bar and ask some questions, alright? Maybe you might find an answer or two. Who knows? There may be ghosts in the machine, but trust me, I am not so keen. I prefer to see these things clearly, not in 144 P. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? If you don't think I am right, let's open my night. Yeah, yeah. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? If you don't think I am right, let's open my night. Yeah. If you have an answer or two, let Kenny Biddle solve it for you. Let Kenny Biddle solve it for you. The one and only Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle. Kenny
Alrighty then, we are back. Oh, everyone's having a good time so far. Lots of people, lots more people tonight than normal. So everybody loves you, man. Everybody loves you. That's good.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, you know, like we had no visitors, like, or no viewers. I'd be like, yo,
That's it. Like no one's turned up. It's like,
oh, hey, are you on number 2? Is this your backup? Wait,
it's,
is that the
it's a
backup?
top up
to your
of both.
backup?
It's a backup.
Oh my goodness. Oh, all right. So we're gonna do some questions. The second hour is always about viewer questions, and I know we have a whole bunch in there. So let's jump right into it. Dawson Toller, is humidity a reason that makes a REM pod go off? So Dawson is a guy, I met him in Ohio a couple months back when I met Joe Fatale and Side Eye Guy too. I met Side Eye Guy there. And I love Dawson. I think he's a great guy, even though he's a ghost hunter. I'm just kidding. But he's very
worst.
Yeah, I know we've all done worse. But I do like his curiosity, and I love that he's willing to have a conversation and talk about these things. So, what are your thoughts on this?
So I can't really think of a reason other than conductivity. If conductivity changes with humidity,
Right.
fair enough. But probably in regards to the hardware, there's a good chance that obviously high humidity, if you're in there for a long time, is going to affect the hardware that's actually within the piece of equipment, so within the REM pod. You know,
Yeah.
there could be some level of shorting going on. That would be my first go-to in regards to humidity when it comes to a REM pod, definitely.
So from what I know about the REM pod, it acts as basically it's 2/3 of a capacitor, and you make the final third. So as you have two conductive plates, it stores energy, electrical energy, not metaphysical, paranormal energy. Don't get it confused, but electrical energy inside. It stores it between the two plates, and that how much it stores that dictates the tone that is being generated. So it looks at it and says like low voltage, then low tone, lots more voltage, higher tone. And that's why as you move your hand closer to the antenna, the tone usually goes up. So I think as you said, I think you hit it. Like, I don't know for sure, but with high humidity, then you're going to have more conductivity. So you might get a slight, I don't know if it's going to be noticeable to like you visually, like if just watching it, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell a difference unless you actually tested it. That's something that we'd have to actually set up for. It'd be interesting. Be an interesting little experiment to see if we could get it to react like further away than normal if it's high humidity. So, but I don't think it would be. Yeah. So good question. Thank you, Dawson.
Brilliant.
What else we got there, Tim? Foxfire. That's awesome. Kenny, did you wish Dawson a happy birthday today? Oh, Dawson, it's your birthday? Oh,
Happy birthday.
I need to have like a birthday song. I need to do like a really bad video. like, and probably not when I'm, after I'm already drinking a little bit, because I'll be like, happy birthday to you. That would be bad. That would be really bad. But happy birthday, Dawson, if it's your birthday. Devin, how do you calibrate an EMF meter?
So there's various professional bodies that can do it for you. So it's very much in the same way as how you would calibrate a tape measure to the proper measurement of 1 millimeter. But basically, so we have usually better instrumentation that is taking a reading or emitting EMF to a level that is known, and then that another EMF meter will be placed within that field. And then we know exactly what that's meant to be, and then it will be adjusted, whether it's via, say, the digital aspect, which is the coils, I believe it's the amount of coils that are on the thing, or how tight they weave. I'm not entirely sure about that, but and then obviously in a manual meter, so like the old tri-field to the needle, the needle adjustment will change, so they take it from one point to another. So I'm not being a professional in regards to calibrating them, but I do know that once these things are sent away to be calibrated, that is what they will find is a
Right.
almost a calibrated source to create a calibrated piece of equipment.
Right. So you're you would take the device and you would compare it to a known standard. And that's how you make sure it's calibrated, because you would have your standard that you know for sure is set to a certain measurement, and then you would again put it in the field and see if this meter acts the same way or has the same measurement, and then you would adjust accordingly. Like I spent years in automotive and aircraft industry with torque wrenches, and for years, like I was like, I don't know how they calibrate them.
Off the calibration.
Right, like,
Comes back again calibrated.
Don't use that one. It's got to be sent out for calibration. Okay, so you have to go and compare it to a known standard, and then so that's how you would calibrate it. I mean, like you, I'm not a professional in that field, so I don't know the exact process, but I know that there has to be a standard that they compare it to.
I'm in the nuclear industry, and that's huge on calibration, as you can imagine. So it's Oops.
Oops. Sure wish we set that out. Oh my goodness.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Dawson says the reason I asked, I was in a humid place. Where were you doing? What were you doing, Dawson? Someone had a REM pod and it went off quite a bit. My first guess was maybe the humidity.
That's good thinking.
It's good. I like the train of thought. My first thought would be battery. I've known them, and not just the REM pod as a whole, but the Junior Thurman that's been used in other devices. When the battery gets low, it will go off a lot more constantly, and it's not because it's actually making that. It's not the grounding. It's actually just the low voltage, or the what do I want to say? It's not a constant voltage. You might get a spike or a dip because of the battery is draining, and that'll set it off.
Yeah.
So, but that's usually my first thought is change the battery and see if it still does it. But good question. Good follow-up too, Dawson. Thank you. Brian Dunning. Oh my God. I thought I banned you. No, I'm kidding. But how do you know when it's time to not be nice? So that's a sliding scale, to be honest. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think you know when you're having a two-way discussion. And I think you know when you're not. And that's the point where you kind of, so the not be nice bit kind of comes when it's thrown back in your face.
Yeah.
So you're not listened to at all, and some places some people you can discuss with and say, actually it's this, and this, and they can basically be like, I don't give a fuck. And I say, it's like, well,
right.
I'm trying to put a point here, but I'm just going to say to you that if you carry on doing this way, you're only going to get to that, and then you can be not nice, but never ever be not nice to begin with. Always have it as a secondary, waiting for that attack. And even then, I'm finding now since I come back, I'm desperately trying not to attack. Even when someone tries to attack at me, just kind of go, okay, arm's length. Like,
right.
I can't. I'm getting too old for this. It is what it is. You won't learn. You don't want to learn. You're not open to any suggestion. Go away, basically. But back in sort of the early years, it was like, I'm going to go on the attack because I've seen something, someone do something. Everyone's going to get it. This is how you're going to learn. And it was not the best way. So I think, I think when it's time not to be nice is when someone's not being nice to you.
Right. I said like sliding scale because it really depends on the situation, the people involved. And I do want to be professional and polite anyway, even when I'm not being nice. Yeah. For me, usually, because similar journey, like it used to be years and years ago, it used to be not being nice meant hey, you know what? Fuck you. I don't care. And yelling at them, that was the reaction. Now it's more like, well, you know what? We're not going to be able to talk about this. I'm not going to be able to help you. So I'm going to move on to something else. So it's kind of like not being nice is more professional rudeness. Just not even rudeness, just stopping it, saying, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. We're not getting anywhere. This is wasting my time. It's wasting your time. It's wasting my time. Let me move on. I will get a little bit more, let's say, heated if there's potential danger involved and danger to someone's safety or health. That will like if a psychic, just for example, I'm not saying this actually happened, but if a psychic or medium tells someone, like, are you having any trouble? And they're like, yeah, I'm on medication, this and that. And the psychic tells them, you don't need that medication. Don't listen to your doctor. That, for me, that is not like you just have given up your right for me to be polite to you. Because you have to step in because that could potentially harm and or kill someone. So
you've just made me think of a case I worked with. It wasn't a case I pushed myself into, where I was contacted by a medium, and the medium said that there was a child, so instant alarm bells, safeguarding, etc. There's a child who is being attacked on a nightly basis in this case. So they'd added me on Facebook, they'd messaged me on Facebook, and I thought, okay, I want to be involved in this case because I want to take it away from that and make sure everything's okay. And they were like, all I want you to do is, because you're a skeptical investigator, I want you to like log everything and film things so that I've got the evidence of it. And I said, all right, okay, not a problem. I said, can you tell me who the client is? Oh, no, I'll let you know when we're ready to go around and this. So I looked through Facebook, found this person asking for the medium's help. I said, do you happen to be the person whose child's suffering? Yeah, is there any chance, please don't mention it to the medium, but is there any chance I can come around and do an initial interview? During the initial interview, I said, have you taken the child to the doctor? He said, no. He was suffering with abdominal cramps, was being sick, was horrendous, into A&E, appendicitis.
oh my God. Yeah.
So as you can imagine, this medium who had claimed that there was a pentagram on the door, which obviously is a symbol of peace. If you depending on which part of history you look at it, so it's like all
history.
This kind of stuff.
What? Whoa! What do you mean research? That's crazy talk, Kev.
How are you actually putting time into this? But so you can imagine this child, they were 11 years of age, could have ended up, could have been killed.
Yeah,
and that's if the appendix had gone. So that's the importance of the arsehole mode. That is the moment when you say enough and you go for it, because there is those safeguarding issues that are being broken.
Right. I mean, yeah, I really, again, like I used to be really angry, and now I try to be as less angry as possible. I can still get, when somebody says the wrong thing, like, because I'm usually like, I'm talking to you and I might be talking like back and forth looking at everything. But then as soon as you say something like really bad, that's potentially dangerous, then it's like, oh, all right, you have my attention. I'm gonna focus on you now. Like everything else is gone. We're gonna talk about what you're doing right here, because we need to avoid this potential danger. So good question though, Brian. Thank you for that. All right, Vanessa. What is the best equipment to take on an investigation? Ooh. What do you think, Kev?
One of those. One of these.
There you go.
I'm literally just writing an article for Haunted Magazine in regards to these things, because if you're writing down everything that you're thinking, doing, everything else as you're doing an investigation, even if it's at a location that's been hired and all that kind of stuff, in the event of, say, you see a full apparition or you see something fly across the room, if you write that down as soon as it happens, if you remain calm and write it down, you get the most accurate information of exactly what that situation was for you as an individual. you have something that you can go back to, and what you'd usually find is you go back to it and go, "Huh, that's not how I remembered it." Like this is your number one tool out of everything. Everyone's kind of got obsessed about having equipment and things. You know, the same as I say, if you've got like a dictaphone or a voice recorder, the only thing
Right.
you don't use that for recording EVPs. You use that for recording a witness statement while you're sat down discussing what someone's experienced. So you can listen back and be like, this is how it was said. The same as you can do with this. You can just write down as you go, doing those
Right.
keynotes. So for me, I think the best equipment you can ever take on an investigation is a notepad and pen. Obviously, if you film something, you're getting all that information and everything else, that's fine. But again, a lot of people look back on that footage and go, oh, there's an orb, or they find all these different things that really aren't there.
Right.
Notepad and pen keeps things really basic, really simple, really easy to use. The majority of us can write. It's not a problem. And if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of you writing down information, you tend to think, if you corroborate that information together, you say, oh, yeah. So I've mentioned that I've heard this noise at whatever, and this person wrote down the fact that they kicked their chair at whatever time.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're finding the answers as you go.
Yeah. For me, I totally agree with you. I mean, I always have a pen and a notebook with me everywhere I go. And usually, just to expand on that, I have a camera. I have a voice recorder that I take with me. That because usually I write as many notes as possible, but sometimes I don't have time to write everything down, and it's just easier to hold that microphone and say, all right, this is what happened, this is what I was doing, this is where I was, this is what time, date, all of this is who's around me, and then transcribe that later on after listening to it. But it's direct quotes from the notes I made then. I take my camera with me all the time. I take reference photos of the entire area, every room, hallway, whatever that I'm in. And then I have a bag of tricks. Like I have my standard bag that I take with me just in case. I take a tape measure, I take a spirit level, and I have different things for collecting evidence if there is any. Like because I do go like on cryptid hunts and UFO sightings and stuff like that. So if anything pops up, I can do that. But that's just.
I would love to go on a Bigfoot hunt, by the way.
Well, I mean,
just out of intrigue.
It's basically ghost hunting, but in the woods.
In the woods.
That's the only difference I've experienced so far. You are in the woods with a whole bunch of guys, and that's it. That's it. And the last time I went was when the cicadas came out of their hibernation. So it doesn't bother me, but they will fly around the woods and land on you. And I mean, we're talking like things that are this big, and there's a bunch on you. And I'm just like, all right, flick, flick, but standing there in the dark in the woods, and somebody's playing alleged Bigfoot calls over a speaker, and I had to question my life choices once again.
This is what it's come to.
This is where my life has led me. I'm in here with bugs covered all over me, but yeah. I mean that's pretty standard for what I take, and it also depends on what the person says. What they claim is happening. I might need something extra if they have a special case, something that I'm not used to. Like, all right, well, maybe I'll get this measuring device, or I don't know. Like, every scenario is different. So whatever they're telling me, I'll plan for it before I go there. So really good. But a notebook and pen, yes, absolutely. Spirit level. So that is just a level. It's a level.
It's not a ghost monitor of any type.
Spirit level. There you go. Basically, so you can tell if something is level or not. So I put this on the floor, and this is good because it's got all kinds of angles, 45, and then 90, and then so I take that with me It's also got a magnet on it, which is great. To look at floors, look at doors, look at windows, look at anything. Stairways. I've been in houses where the stair, I mean, this, so let's see, that's level. But I've been in houses where the stairs were like that.
Mhm.
And the main claim was that they felt like they were being pushed down the stairs. And I'm like, well, you need to get your stairs redone because that's why you feel like you're going over like this. So
in the UK, we get a lot of in a lot of pubs where they claim it's haunted because the pint will roll off the table, sort of slide off. Obviously, it's condensation and
right.
and off it goes. And that is the most important reason to carry a spirit level, especially when dealing with those kind of cases. So you just kind of walk up and go, oh, there you go.
Right.
That's exactly
right.
right.
And it's funny, like every time I say that, I get that question all the time. Like, what do you mean a spirit level?
Mhm.
Like, it's just coincidence that we're looking
There's
for
spirit.
ghosts. Yes, but it
It's
is called a
liquid,
spirit
isn't
level.
it?
I actually don't know why it's called a spirit level, and I'm going to look that up while the next
It's
question.
the I think it's the liquid inside the bubble.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's coming
Okay.
from a civil engineer. But
All right. I'm gonna try. I didn't see the comment if I was saying your name correctly. So Lorian,
Lorianne Jones. That's my
Lorian.
loving
Okay.
partner.
Oh, okay. Well, now I feel really stupid.
This is her office. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So why is she not coming in and asking that question live?
Because I'd look at her and go, "Don't ask that question."
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, where did it go?
Solution inside the levels. Awesome. I just thought it was a bubble in water. All right. So great. Double barrel question. What do you think ghosts are, and what would it take to convince you of their existence?
It's a big double barrel as well.
Yeah. So first question, what do you think ghosts are? So actually, for me,
for you, Kenny, I was going to say, go on.
I know
I'm
this is, so I can't answer that question because currently I don't have the idea that ghosts exist. So I can't tell you what they are because I don't think they exist. So there's nothing there. If there's something there, for me to be convinced that one would be real, at least one is real, they would have to pop in my office right here. And I always say this, I have to poke them. I have to see if they're squishy or if I go through them, if they're hot, they're cold, whatever, or like feel like, like cool mist on a summer day. I need to be able to talk to them or test them, have a lab condition, because, and I need other witnesses too, because maybe I'm hallucinating, maybe something's wrong with me. There's so many questions. It's not a matter of just one pops in and says, "Hey, I'm a ghost. We're real." Start believing. There's a lot more to it because there's other questions like, am I really experiencing this? And can other people see it? And if not, then it's me. It's something wrong up here. So that's my answer. I hope I answered that question. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. For me, is say, what do you think ghosts are? We don't really know what ghosts are, and there's multiple different kind of ideas, whether it's a physical thing, an environmental factor, or as you say, they're there and you can interact with them, or whether it is a mental thing, whether it is psychological and we are hallucinating, or the other question of if we're actually projecting, kind of creating the physical through our psychological, in that sense. But for me, I think the majority of the times I've found it's a lot to do with psychology. It's not less to do with atmospheric. But I have found at recent where I've been a bit more open-minded when I've been doing investigations and things, that those physical aspects seem to be quite pronounced. And then when it comes to like convincing me of their existence is kind of being able to go, oh, and by the way, this is a ghost, and then setting up a situation where that thing happens again and again and again. And as I found, that's borderline impossible every time you do. If you do find something that's quite significant, you think, oh, okay, that's interesting, and you do it again, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
So it's really difficult to get that repeatable thing.
Yeah.
But when I say the majority of the time, I think psychological is a big thing for me. But then I do concentrate on that as an investigator.
Right.
That is my first port of call, is what's happening psychologically more to what's happening environmentally.
Yeah, repeatability is an issue because it's very hard to actually get something to reproduce like that, especially under controlled conditions. You know, under test conditions, it's very difficult to get that happen. And usually, you're left with the people that are so sure that something's going to happen. They're like, I don't know why. I don't know why. Or in some cases, and in a lot of cases, actually, it's my fault. It becomes my fault because I'm skeptical, because I don't believe. And even though, like, I always argue back with this, I push back because I'm here. Like, you told me this is going to happen. I'm here to see this happen. I'm here to witness this. I want it to happen. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really want to see a ghost. I think that'd be awesome. But when it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's not because I'm going, you know, no, you're not real. No, you're not real. No, no, no. That's not the case. I'm in my head, I'm thinking like, all right. And I get excited. Like I actually feel that excitement, you know, like, oh, maybe this time it will happen. So, oh, well, you know,
I will say, since I took that break, took that 3-year break, 3-year break, and I've come back, and what I've tried to do is be, if someone turned around and said to me, if you jump on one leg and spin around in circles, then you can create a ghost. Okay, let's try it. And okay, let's try it. And what I have found in doing that, I've had more personal experiences of, like, I had a really weird situation at Jamaica in. Unfortunately, because typical me, we're in the middle of an experiment, a long-running experiment, where actually 50% of the phenomena that's experienced is actually reported anywhere. It's one of those which isn't reported, but I could say it seemed to be a physical thing that only 2 out of the 6 people experienced. One was me, and one was another guy that was next to me. And it was like, huh. It was one of those sort of moments as a skeptic where you went, the hell? And then the same again, typically for a TV show that we've been filming, and trying to be like the most honest TV show possible and just doing it properly and being a skeptic and being allowed to do it, where we had poltergeist activity. And it was the first time ever in 15 years where I had a controlled area and was receiving almost poltergeist-like communication. Typically with a fucking film crew sat there, because at any other time, if it was like, it would have been perfect, but because it's on film, it just takes away that credibility.
right. Yeah.
But at some point, once I get some level of permission, I'll send you the raw footage so you can actually see it. Because it was just 45 minutes of a conversation with what seemed to be a poltergeist in a controlled environment, and it was just like strange, but just trying to be that open-minded approach to, and then having those controls, and it was just really strange, like a mindset change,
Right.
in a way.
Yeah, I'd love to listen to that.
Mm.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, cool. All right.
Onwards.
Good. What else we got? Abby, if we all saw full operational video, would anyone actually believe it, even if it can't be debunked?
Nope.
So,
Not anymore. Not
no,
nowadays.
yeah, no. It is so easy to create effects. And I mean, I've tried to look at as much as I can, and there's been times where I've looked at a video, especially like TikTok. Sometimes I'm sitting on TikTok and I'm just scrolling through. I type in like poltergeist or demon possession, and I'm just scrolling through and going, "Yep, I know. I think I know what that is. I think I know what that is. This one though, what is this?" And that hooks me. Like I'll sit here for hours or a day or two trying to figure out what is going on. How are they doing this? I recognize something, but I'm not sure how they're pulling this off. But there is so many tools available, especially many are free now, from photo editing to video editing to AI generation, that you can use stuff for free and create amazing effects that look so photorealistic that it's if somebody just shows me a video and that's it, no, I'm not going to take it, because I need more context. I need more information. I need to understand what everyone was doing, and I need more data points. I can't just go by one video. That's not how you work like this. So, I mean, what do you thought? What are your thoughts?
It's pretty much exactly the same. Everything nowadays is so simple. You know, you can do it. You can sit on your phone for an afternoon, say 45 minutes if you really know what you're doing, and you'd have yourself a ghost video. And weirdly enough, a lot of the digital animation and visual effects schools, a lot of their final projects are create a ghost video,
Right.
and they get leaked out and become part of YouTube and TikTok and that kind of thing, because it's such a simple thing to do that even if typically you were in a situation where you managed to film a full apparition that you could see and you're filming it on your phone because it suddenly happened, you jumped to it, that is only a personal experience, because you know you could recreate it, there's no doubt about it, but at the same time it's something that the general public can do so easily. So now videos of full apparitions, although it used to be the big top part of evidence, is
Right.
now absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely has changed because so much is technology has progressed so much. I mean, and you're right about film projects. I mean that there's a famous video of ball lightning that goes across railroad tracks.
A railway track.
Yeah, and I mean that was a student that did it. They created this and they were learning how to do it. And when somebody else grabbed it and said, "Look, this is real. Look at this," and it was completely fabricated. I mean, and that's the point of why we investigate things and why it takes so long, because it's not just a knee-jerk reaction. You can't just go into a place and 5 minutes later go, "Yes, this place is haunted." No, sometimes it takes weeks or months or years in order to determine what's going on. So, good question. Good question. What is that? Oh,
Alarm clock watch.
I bought a watch at a flea market, and I can't figure out how to turn the alarm off.
You've been tricked.
There it goes. It doesn't, like, I put a battery in it. The guy said, "Oh, all you need is a battery." I put a battery in it. The digital part works, but the actual analog arms that tell me the time do not work. That's why I bought it. But the alarm goes off all the time, and now it's just trash. So I was like, "What the hell was that?" Brian Dunning, for Kev, do you know Uncanny with Danny Robbins?
Everyone does.
His has witnesses tell their ghost stories, but once they're off air, he has skeptics give their impressions. How do you feel about that process?
So, one with Uncanny, I love that. I love that skeptics are finally getting a television level, very public level opinion on the things that happen. Have you listened to Uncanny? Or
I have not.
Honestly, it's a podcast. Listen to it; it's amazing. So a witness sits down, they tell their ghost story, sort of halfway between they skip to the experts, and there might be someone who's a spiritualist or anything else. There'll be Kieran O'Keefe. I assume you've heard of Kieran O'Keefe.
Okay, yeah.
Big skeptic, that kind of, and they'll put their opinion forward, and so you'd have the believer side and the skeptic side.
Okay.
The only thing about that process for me is, as it's gone on, as it typically does when it goes to the public, is it's become like a two-sided battle. on each episode where you have the skeptics versus the believers. And it's like, that's all well and good, but it's quite damaging because you could be a skeptic in the sense of the real meaning of a skeptic, which is just that you have a questioning attitude and you want more answers and you're not just going to take that information as is. And then you have a cynic. And a lot of the paranormal world see a skeptic as a cynic. And it's not. It's not that at all. You know, you're looking for more information and more answers. And the same with the believers, you know, that they believe everything. It's actually like they have a belief, but they might be questioning. So I love the fact. I love listening to the ghost stories. I could sit there in my car for hours on end listening to these podcasts and these different stories that people have, and people putting their opinions forward. And it's nice that I can sit there and kind of have the same opinions and know that the guy who's saying the thing has, you know, a PhD in parapsychology or whatever. So I know I'm good. You know, it's okay, great, something to compare it about. But I really have that issue with that believer skeptic, like that solid line that they put in it. But it is Uncanny. It's fantastic. I think he's just released Uncanny USA to a lot of ones in America as well.
That's cool. I mean, I do
really
like that.
Need to listen.
Yeah.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I wrote it down on my notebook so that I can look it up and start doing it. I have a road trip coming up in like 2 weeks, so I'll be able to listen to a bunch and see how it goes. But yeah, I like that idea that you hear both sides, but I understand where you're coming from. It's like it becomes a two-sided argument instead of like people listening and going, all right, you know, let me take the information. They're providing good information. Let me take that away from the show and not just get, you know, emotional about it and bitch about it. So good question. Thank you, Brian. Let's see, Ian, what's up? Can you explain portals? All the physics.
Okay, are you ready? Yeah. If I,
I'm gonna wait. Let's do this. You know, like if we take like a, I'm gonna say a space here, and then a space here, and then we fold it over, and then we like this right through. You get the movie version of physics.
Ta-da!
There's the portal right there. Solved. Thank you, Ian. For being a smartass. Love it. I love it. Oh, man. Jody, for Kenny and Kev both, who's your favorite astrophysicist? Ooh. Wow.
Astrophysics. So, Professor Brian Cox is amazing.
Yes.
And I just love his delivery of things as well. He's like, I'm Professor Brian Cox. Like, he's very like chill. Obviously, he has absolute zero belief in the paranormal, which is fine. And I think the other one is actually a friend of mine called CC, Chris Crow. He is he's got a doctorate in astrophysics, and he does talks astrophysics from the QE2 when he does cruises and things, and has his own planetarium. Is that the right?
Yeah. Planetarium.
Yeah, in South America that he studies and does, and it's nice to see that someone I know could be that good at what they do. So there you go. That's my answer.
For me, I'm going to agree with you on Brian Cox. I do enjoy his work and his delivery. I can
hear that beeping still.
You can? No way. I threw it across the room. Like it's not even here. You can hear that?
It's the ghost of the what was once a world watch.
Oh my goodness, I can't hear it at all. But all right, so I'll try and talk over it. So my second answer is, and again I might be biased, and I'll explain why. Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I might just add that both Brian Cox and Neil deGrasse Tyson will be appearing at SciCon this year in October in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, yeah, both of them at the same time.
I only ever wish to talk to somewhere like that. Only ever wish. That's a long way for me.
It's I mean, Brian Cox I have not been able to speak with, but Tyson, I have spoken with him, and I was able to actually be in a room because he had a whole bunch of books and he was autographing, and I was kind of in charge of getting him to autograph all of them. And so I had like an hour and a half to speak with him, and we just talked about all kinds of things. And he brought up the paranormal and ghosts and stuff because I told him what I did, and he's like, "Oh, let me ask you this." And then, I mean, it was one of my proud moments where he's like, "So
Amazing.
I'm going to put your name in my Rolodex so that when a question comes up and I'm going, yeah, I like that. All right. I like it on 2 accounts. Like, 1, you're going to call me if you have a question, hopefully. But 2, you actually still have a Rolodex. Like, that's amazing.
That's
Okay.
old school, man.
That's old school, man. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing both of them talk this year. Cool. Good question. Redman, can you define real paranormal researcher? Ooh. So before you answer, I'm going to just jump in real quick and say that I think both of us can give our own definitions, our own descriptions of what we think a paranormal researcher is. But when you get into the quote unquote real paranormal researcher, you fall into the no true Scotsman fallacy, where it's like you're applying the qualities you think every person of this like title should have, when it might not be the case, or you might not be qualified to do that. So with that disclaimer, what do you think the qualities are?
Well, the thing is, when you say researcher, so there's a very big difference between researcher and investigator. So researcher is as far as I look at it, is someone who goes back through previous cases, previous things that have been dealt with, pull as much information from it in that sense. So like almost a paranormal historian, if you want. But investigator, someone who's looking at these things as they happen, and feeding that researcher in the background, over years. I would say they define a real paranormal researcher, someone with integrity and someone who is critically minded whilst also helping out an individual. So they're critically minded, as Kenny said, curious is definitely a big thing. Critically minded, and someone who has the ability to help someone, who actually wants to help someone, and it's not kind of a selfishness. I'd say there's not many of them alive now who were that way inclined. I'd say one that is alive right now is Steve Parsons. And if you haven't heard of Steve Parsons, I know he does the thing with Ron Koleg. Does
Yeah, I don't recall.
He's quite well known in the US. But basically, Steve Parsons does a podcast with him in the US. But for the UK, he is, I believe, he's the head of something within ASAP now. He keeps moving around, as well as part of the SPR's Spontaneous Case Committee. He is a fantastic investigator with some amazing books that are out there. So I would say, if you want to find who a real paranormal researcher in the modern day, or a real paranormal investigator in the modern day, would be Steve Parsons. Steve P. Parsons. He's fantastic.
He's got Ghostology. Yeah. I think I have the original and then like the revised edition.
The revised blue version, I think it is.
Yes.
He also writes the if I remember the name of it now. There's 2 books for the SPR, which is the guide to the investigation of anomalous phenomena. Basically. Yeah, incredible.
And for me, I think, like, again, with that disclaimer about the no true Scotsman fallacy falling into that, or possibly falling into that, like, I see researcher. It's weird because it's like people are almost trying to specialize, saying, "Oh, well, I'm a researcher, not an investigator. I'm an investigator, not a researcher." For me, I do both. I research. I deep dive into records and ancestry and newspapers and stuff like that in order to investigate a claim, that's coming up. So I think you nailed it pretty good. You have to have integrity. You have to be honest about what you're doing. You have to be able to or be willing to show the negative results as well as the positive results, not just what your agenda is. You need to let the facts lead you to a conclusion. Don't put anything based on your beliefs. Your own beliefs are one thing. Keep them at the, check them at the door. But when you go out, stick to the facts, stick what you can find, what you can produce data and evidence of, and go from there. And definitely just be honest about things. Don't fabricate results or make up results or exploit or what's the word? Embellish results because you want something to be something you want it to believe or want it to be or like close to it. Just be honest about it, and I think you'll be on the right path. So, but that's just my version. It doesn't mean it's a good investigator or researcher. It's just my version. That's how I try to live. So, good question though. Good question. Keep going. We're doing good, Kevin. Bearing in mind, most investigations are spending hours sitting around eating your own body weight in snacks. How do you keep interest and energy levels up? Wow, that's a great question. I love how you phrase that.
It comes with the name, does it?
I mean, that's good. I mean, to be honest, like I don't do the typical ghost hunt. I what you see on TV or what you see from most groups going out and doing that, sitting around in the dark waiting for things to happen. I don't normally do that unless the claim calls for it. If it doesn't call for me waiting for something to happen, then when I go out there, I already know the claims. I already know what they said they experienced, and I've looked into it. I've tried to come up with some plausible explanations for it and some ideas that I can test. And when I get in there, I am constantly moving. I don't sit and wait unless I, tag along with a group of ghost hunters. I just simply don't do that. And I think that's a more productive and efficient kind of investigation because I'm testing things. I'm getting results either way. And I'm not sitting around doing nothing. I mean, I'm chubby enough. I don't need to eat more snacks or have a reason to do that. So, good question, though. Good question. Redman, why do people think EMF is tied to anything paranormal?
TV. And obviously the God helmet experiments and those kind of things. But I think TV really, really pulled that kind of.
Yeah.
This is an EMF meter and it bleeps.
I blame Ghostbusters for that. When the PKE meter came on screen, I think that was the first time people thought like we could have a handheld device. Yeah. And it was around the same time that the first EMF meter that was handheld and available to consumers, the general public, was available. So yeah, I think there's I can't prove it. I can't tell you, 100%. But
I see a logic there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think it was just something easy. It was a way, and I'm going to totally stereotype here, but it was a way to measure energy that you couldn't see normally, that was just in the environment. And experiments like the God helmet helped that along, because it induced under scientific conditions, under specific conditions, let me say, it produced hallucinations or such feelings, but not in everyday life or household situations. So drink. Sorry, energy. Yes.
Cheers.
All right, good one. Got a lot of questions. Ooh, Wayne, Kev, you mentioned that you were expecting Ouija brothers to throw stones in the corner to fake things. have you caught people faking live?
Yes. So like I say, with the Ouija boards, I expected that because I had a preconceived idea about what YouTube investigators were going to be like, and people who chase that fame and viewership and that kind of thing.
Right.
But I do go on a lot of these location investigations, or we used to call them e-investigations, like event investigation type things, where
Nice.
there's a group of you and that kind of thing. And I think, say, on 3 occasions, 2 occasions I've suspected someone had done something. On 1 occasion, I've caught a person doing something. And I'm not going to go into names, etc. They know who they are because there isn't many of them. But yes, definitely 100%. I think I've always been very aware on these investigations when it gets to around about 11 o'clock to midnight and it's been a quiet night. That's when I get very hyper aware of everyone and what they're doing in the rooms, because that is usually what I find the moment when people start to mess around and try and make things a bit fun.
Okay.
With a quite a staple group that I go with, which is like Corinne Basant and those kind of people who I go with. We have a rule that if we're going to prank, so we're going to do something that might be quite funny, we admit it straight away. You've done the funny bit. Everyone's kind of, all right, we're all relaxed now. Great. It was me, did this, it's fine. And that's the number one rule, just in case that does happen, because that boredom is almost a normal instinctual thing that people have, especially when you stood around eating your waiting snacks, things like Kevin said. So
Right. Yeah, I did it. One guy, Dawson, that was in the chat. I don't know if he still is. We were doing one of the other times I questioned my life choices. We were in the basement of an alleged haunted house, and we were taking turns getting handcuffed to a pole in the basement of this place, which was supposed to be like really, really, haunted and demonic and stuff like that.
anything for the paranormal.
Yeah, hey, they wanted to try it. I said, okay, I'll try it. And yeah, when Dawson was down there and his time was up, I walked over on the main floor, which was right above where he was, and I keyed up my microphone on my 2-way radio, and he had a REM pod next to him, and it went off. And I think it got him for a second, like he was like, "Oh my god," and then realized, that I was up there fucking with him. So yeah, I mean, he laughed. He knew it was me right away. Yeah, it's good to have fun, but yeah, you gotta let them know right away. Good one.
Definitely.
All right. We're getting at the 2-hour mark, so no more questions, please. I appreciate everyone with the questions. We have a bunch, so we're gonna try and get through them, but no more questions. Jeff AF, what was your most obvious debunk you actually encountered?
There's been so many. A really interesting one, actually. No Fort in the UK, and amazing location.
Okay.
And we were down in the tunnels underneath, and we had someone called out, and then all of a sudden there's a female voice, really like kind of noise in the background. It was like, that's strange. I had a friend from me it was, I think, it's the second investigation he come with me on, and he went from about 4 meters away to right next to me. It was that kind of obvious. It was in the air kind of sound. Oh, and then called out again, and then all of a sudden this female voice was coming through again, and I thought, So I paced out the tunnel all the way back to the stairs to go back up, and paced all the way back, and there was an office, and I said, "Oh." It was the guy who was looking after the place. I said, "Were you just on the phone?" And he went, "Yeah, no, I was just on the phone to the missus." "Oh, do you have on speakerphone?" I was like, "Yeah." So I'll call her back then. Go back down again, and I found just that there was like the tunnel, and above they had the sort of cable trays that go across with all the services on. And then I kind of moved all like the cobwebs out of the way and everything else. And funnily enough, there was a ventilation, like a tiny ventilation hole that went right up to the office above. But at the time, as soon as we heard it, it was like that was a female voice, 100%. And And because it was on speakerphone with the guys looking after the location while we were investigating, was talking to his partner on the phone.
Cool. All right, that's good. All right, moving on. Let's see. What do you think about Greg and Dana suggesting that Bigfoot is a spirit of a Neanderthal or something like that rather than a physical being? Is this the new Kirks?
I'm trying to work out Greg and Dana, but if you think of a spirit of Neanderthal, so what we know about Neanderthals,
Right.
They're not this tall. They're not super tall. They're not covered in
Right.
hair. Say they're not covered in hair as far as we're aware, but they're not that tall. So technically, if it was the spirit, are they not going to be the same or similar or lower height? Because obviously we have known over the last sort of century that we are becoming taller. Were they much smaller? So for me, if Bigfoot was a spirit of anything, it would be a spirit of a giant ape of types, not a Neanderthal in that sense.
This brings up interesting discussion because it's like,
and who I'm going to find out later who Greg and Dana is. Anyone is that?
I know for people, humans have a tendency, at least some of us, to want to be taller or want to be thinner or want to be something else.
I'm going to find out the Greg and Dana thing. 2 seconds.
He's gonna leave me again. Just bring her on screen so you can answer questions live. But the thought that I'm having is like humans tend to have this idea. Like if I'm going to remember myself, if I die tonight and I get the chance to come back as a ghost, I'm going to be a thinner ghost because I don't want to be fat. I want to be thinner. So I can see that. But if you're talking about earlier species, I don't think they're going to have one. They're probably not going to be fat like me because food was just not readily available. But there's not going to be that concern. So you're not going to have a concern of whether, I want to be thinner or taller or, better looking or this and that. That's not a concept that's going to be at this time frame. That's something that's later on. That's with us, and vanity and all that kind of stuff that we deal with now. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, Dr. Jim, I'm guessing that's who they're talking about. And I mean, personally, I don't consider them an authority on anything. So I've only interacted with them online, so I can't say for sure. I've never met them in person. I don't know if they're nice people or not. I just don't like the information they put out or their show. That awful 2-season show that I just did not like because it was awful. There you go. Did you confirm?
I did confirm the new Kirks, is it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I am not a fan of them at all. So, all right. With that said, moving on. Dr. Jim, you both mentioned progress in the community. Where do you see the progress leading, and how can we encourage such progress?
Not a bad question at all. Progress can only really lead to answers. Finding more clearer answers, finding ways to either prove or disprove, but definitely finding some type of answer. And I'd say we can encourage that by, as we said, be approachable, by aiding sort of step by step. So you can't really jump from ghosts exist to ghosts don't exist. You have to kind of say, okay, ghosts exist, but they don't exist in this, and this, and then they might not exist in that. And then we found some level of proof of existence. So we kind of, that's how we can kind of encourage progress through, is kind of go, we already know that orbs, issues with cameras is things with moisture, with bugs and that kind of stuff. Put that to one side. If you're coming into the field and anyone mentions it, just put them straight to one side and say, no, we've done all that. We're going to take this next step.
Right. And I mean, it really sums up with the sign, never stop learning. The more you learn, the more you understand what's going on, the processes, the results, how to interpret the results, and you fine tune your skills, and your critical thinking skills. You fine tune them. So I think that's the progress that we're encouraging, to think better. We're not telling you what to think. We're trying to teach how to think, like how to look at things, how to pick out the details, how to question, what to question about, and dig into it so you can literally weed out the bullshit. And instead of just accepting things of or having the philosophy of, I don't know what it is, therefore ghost. Like, that mentality has to go away. If you don't know what it is, then seek out more information. Go find other experts. Go learn some more. Read a science book. Don't buy a book by a ghost hunter. Just don't. Buy a science book and read that. You'll get much better, more or higher quality information from a science book than you will from just your random typical ghost hunter that's putting out a book about stories. So, good question. Good question. Thank you. Ian, ectoplasm. What's all that about then? Bloody Victorians?
Well, I think it's been proven multiple times, obviously, cheesecloth and that kind of thing that they use to create that situation. But it's, again, comes down to, in the same way TV shows now have gotten out of hand, mediumship back then did exactly the same. They got to desperate levels to just be one better than the others. If you read the latest issue of Haunted Magazine, yes, I'm in it, but I'm not selling it for that reason. But the latest issue of Haunted Magazine there's an article by Kate Sherrill, Dr. Kate Sherrill, and she studies a lot about spiritualism and Victorian spiritualism and things, but she comes from it from a quite a rational aspect. She's got a fantastic article in there about, I want to say I can remember the name of the medium that she talks about, but it talks about then with ectoplasm and this kind of constant level of entertainment that went along with spiritualism through those years.
Okay. Cool. All right. Moving on. Wisdom. Kenny, are you still checking stuff off of the book? Checking stuff off of the book. I'm drawing a blank. What do you mean? Checking stuff off of
Zach Bagans' Paranormal Investigation for Dummies, isn't it?
Oh my god. That fucking book. Oh man. I don't know how. I don't even want to get into him. Your notebook. Oh yeah, I still check things off. I still go. Notebooks are with me all the time. Not just when I investigate. I have notebooks in my car and notebooks here. I check them off. I write everything down. I literally write everything down. I just had. I was going back. Let me see. I had a pile of notebooks, like this and like this, all on my desk the other day because I was going back looking for notes that I had written on a visit that I went to a alleged haunted place. And I was like, I know I have the notes. Let me go back, found them, and was able to confirm, something that I'd written down. So, I write everything down. It's just the way it is. Are they all full? Yes. All of these notebooks are full. I write everywhere. I don't write just like line by line. I write in the margins. I write on top. I usually have Post-it notes on top of other things. Like when I do like research for a location that I'm going to, I usually have pictures that I printed out or certain areas where I want to go that are printed out, taped onto the page so I can flip it up and still read the notes. So yeah, I go to show us. I'm not showing you, Shauna. All right, moving on because we gotta wrap it up soon. Jade Kitten, did the concept of paranormality even exist before the Fox sisters? How far can we trace it back? So paranormality, I looked it up. Let me have so I knew the definition that I had. Oh, there it is. Denoting events or phenomena such as telekinesis or clairvoyance that are beyond the scope of normal scientific understanding.
Well, yes, because I believe the SPR was in place before the Fox Sisters.
Really?
What year? What year was the Fox Sisters?
18. Let's see. SPR found it. SPR. No, that's not it. Oh man, damn it, Google! Now I gotta. That's just more. Psychical research found it. So that was 1882, and I think the Fox Sisters were before that. I think they were 1848. Fox Sisters. Let me see. Fox Sisters were 18. Oh, come on now. 18 early years, 1848. Yeah. So they predated SBR. But I think that the concept
of
alone,
ghosts,
yeah,
etc. Yeah, going back to
Yeah.
ancient Greece. If you're talking, was it the?
I just did.
I can't.
So I finished up a chapter for a book that's. I just sent it in, and it'll be out in a while. I have no idea when it's coming out, but the earliest depiction I could find was we were talking Babylon, where it was on a Babylonian tablet, and it was fascinating because I learned a whole bunch about the culture and realized that ghosts and hauntings were actually part of daily life. It wasn't something that was like feared or rare. It was something that was normal everyday occurrence. So we're talking like 3 to 5,000 BC, where this idea of ghosts and spirits are at least in written, like as long as we have recorded history, it's been there. So it's fascinating to me that it goes back that far.
I think it's part of the human condition.
It's
our brains in that sense. That's why I always say that psychological aspect has always been interesting to me because it's part of who we are.
Right.
And
we just have to come up with excuses about why things exist.
Yep.
And
we got this prefrontal cortex, this thing that looks for answers and constantly curious. and it's we're trying to find that aspect while our limbic system is constantly trying to protect us. So we got this backwards and forwards, and I think that's where we sort of in between that situation is where we have those paranormal experiences, those ghosts and those spirits.
And it helps when you have an active imagination. I mean, that helped. I know that helped with me. I have a very active imagination, so as soon as I heard a noise and couldn't immediately explain what it was, my imagination went nuts. Like, yeah, there's a 15-foot tall demon coming to get me. I'm going to get a picture of it. Cool. Good question. All right. Teshi, do you think paranormal investigators and debunkers will be more likely to work together? I would love to see them ask the community for other possibilities other than ghost or demon. So
if you've got, I think investigators and debunkers tend to work together.
Yeah.
The worst investigators wouldn't require a debunker, or they'd reject a debunker in that sense. But I think it's quite a new thing where you have this paranormal investigator and a debunker.
Yeah.
You have, the debunker thing is like it's quite a buzzword now. Back sort of, I want to say in our day, it makes us sound older than we are, but
we are.
Back in our back in our day, it was kind of a you debunk stuff, but you were still an investigator. I think now you have a big separation through the two. So working together would just almost be a reversal of what we used to do, where you would have a skeptic on a team, or you'd have, if you were an investigator who said it might not be a ghost, you debunk it, you
Right.
find an answer. But when it comes to community and other possibilities other than a ghost or demon, I'm not really sure what that means.
I'd love to see that. So I'm wondering if it's like paranormal investigators asking if there's other possibilities, and rather than a ghost or a demon. So
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, I see like because I'm considered a paranormal. I investigate paranormal claims. I'm a paranormal investigator. I this is my job title. I'm not a debunker. And for me, like I appreciate and respect the debunking community, especially when it's on YouTube, because there is a YouTube debunking community, and I love most of those people that are in it. But I do not consider myself a debunker because I think that promotes a bias. It promotes some kind of agenda, and then that's not what I'm doing. I'm not going in to prove everything wrong or it doesn't exist. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. So I am an investigator, and I think I know from my experience, and I see from your experience, that we do work together with all people of all different beliefs, levels of beliefs, because if they have questions and we can answer them or we can explore them together, we will. Completely open to it, and I love it. I love when people reach out. I love when people that like years ago would have nothing to do with me, and then they reach out in something and they're like, hey, I just thought I'd run this by you. And it's not like, I think they're half expecting me to go, haha, I told you, bitch. But I'm not. That's never my response. My response is, I'm actually excited. I'm happy because it's like, all right, good. We can start this dialogue. We can start having a conversation about it. And I think it's wonderful. So good question. Good question. We're almost there. I think this is it. Dan Webster. Question: have either of you investigated Rolling Hills Asylum? I know that you both aren't fans of the EVP, but it had something else. Let me see if I can go up and read the rest of this comment.
Unfortunately, firstly, I'm in the UK, so I definitely haven't been to Rolling Hills. But I'm very intrigued about the CVP aspect.
I seriously captured the most EVPs or whispers that I could not explain than anywhere I've ever investigated. So I know Rolling Hills is not that far from me. I just haven't been there yet because I recently moved up to Buffalo, New York, and I know it's it's in Bethany, New York, so it's not that far from me. And I've been meaning to get there, I just haven't yet. Let me see here. So your location. Go ahead.
If you're going there, I look at the sort of atmospheric issues. So, say with EMF and things like that, but go with like a smog detector or something like that,
Right?
to see if that might be a reason why there's a lot more EVPs in that location.
Yeah. So it's about an hour from me right now. But yeah, there's definitely things that pop up like, are there open windows, doors? How many people are there? Are they all accounted for every single minute that you're there? When you have these recorders going, how many recorders are they on? Conference room setting rather than like a different setting for close by. That's off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's more questions if we heard them. And are they actually whispers or words? There's been plenty of times where somebody has bumped into a chair or a table, and the noise that it makes going across the floor can sound like a word. It sounds like somebody talking, but it's not. And just recreating that is the only way to figure out what's going on. So I don't know.
If you hold the recorders is a good one.
Yes.
Anyone who just it kind of infuriates me when I see people stood there holding a recorder.
Right.
There's so many movements, so many things that can happen. Find something soft to put it on, lay it down.
Right.
That is perfect.
The friction of your hand just moving across the body can cause all kinds of noises. So, and yeah, what kind are we talking? Digital, or are we talking mechanical? Then there's other issues with that.
Got electric microphone if they got
Feedback.
How do you transfer the files?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I oh my god. So I gotta relate this. I absolutely hate the DR60, the Panasonic DR60, and a friend of mine let me borrow one so I could play with it. I ordered the cable, that the actual cable that you use to go from the headphone jack to a recording jack, you know, because it's a difference, like a 2.5 millimeter jack going into a 3.5, which is not common here. But I got it so I could record it good. And I've seen people at different locations, especially ones that run a alleged haunted location, taking the recorder, and this isn't the one, this is the next model, but taking this, hitting play, taking their phone, hitting record, and doing this, and recording it, and that's the audio that you get. That's what they post on their website and this and that, and I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me! Like, are you
the artifacts?
Yeah, all the artifacts, the ambient noise, people holding. I mean, again, like, holding the recorder. It's just awful. So yeah. I mean, there's lots of questions that come up with that. And Dan, like I've known Dan for many years, so if you want to continue this afterwards, I'm more than willing to have a conversation with you, and maybe we can talk about some of the details and stuff and go a little bit deeper into this. But with that, we are out of questions and we are done. We're actually 20 minutes over our time, which is great. It's nice, running your own show. You don't have to stop when you don't want to. So,
no boss.
It has been absolutely awesome talking to you. I'm so glad that we did this. It was nice to finally meet you like this and have a conversation and get your thoughts and just hang out, have a drink and hang out and all that. So where can people find more about you if they want to get in touch with you?
So I'm mostly on social media. So it's Kev Kerr Paranormal on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. And basically I just try to educate as much as possible. So I just go with the quickest videos. I try to get as much information in small video as possible, that kind of thing. But yeah, just look up Kev Kerr Paranormal on YouTube as well. You'll find me.
Okay, cool. And with that, we're going to end the show. I have one announcement coming up. I want to keep it short. Next weekend, not this weekend coming up, but next weekend, the 15th and 16th, actually the 14th to the 16th, I will be in the area of Grafton, West Virginia, because they have the Grafton Monster Festival. It's the first one. They're celebrating this monster that allegedly was seen way back, I think in the 50s or 60s. It was pretty early, and I'm going to go down there. A friend of mine and Skeptical Inquirer contributor Daniel Reed is going to be speaking at it, which is kind of cool because he's a skeptic, he writes for Skeptical Magazine, and they are allowing him to present. So I'm really excited to see that. I'm going to drive down, hang out with him for the weekend, and then hopefully do a video based on that, the experience and all that. So I'm looking forward. If you're in the area, come on out, hang out, say hi. I'll be there probably with a silly shirt on, something that says Skeptical, so that, we can take some attention away from Daniel in case he says something wrong and they all bring out their shotguns and chase him down. So, but thank you again. Hang out for a moment. And once we close out the show, actually, take your time if you want to do another pee break, because the ending is kind of long. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play the short ending because I have to revise it. So we'll be back in a moment or two, and then we'll chat a little bit more. So everyone, I will see you next week. Next week? Is it next week? Let me make sure. So no, next week there will be no show for now. If I get down there and find out that I have good internet at the hotel, then maybe me and Daniel Reed will be doing a live show from West Virginia. So I'll let you know. All right. Everyone else, I'll see you later.